If I had to create a startup today, there's a very specific problem I would solve. But before I tell you what that is, let me go ahead and let me give you a little background. You see, companies all over the world right now are generating a ton of data. And the cost of storing, processing, and collecting that data is only getting cheaper. Now, at the same time, while these costs have been decreasing, there's also been a rise of technical tools, so things like Power BI, Alteryx, even Fabric, that have allowed less and less technical people to go in and process that data in mass. And this has delivered a ton of business value. You no longer need to have the lone engineer working away in order to extract value. So you have more data and it's easier to process that data. And you might be like, well, both those things sound good. What's the problem? Well, the problem is that most of the non-technical users that are starting to get into the data analysis space haven't been trained on development best practices, and as a result, they often fail to document anything. If you thought developers were bad at documentation, wait until you've seen the self-trained business analysts documentation, because I guarantee you it's awful. Now, this has created some interesting problems in the data space, but the largest problem that's created is that most companies now, especially larger ones, have multiple sources of the truth. So they now have multiple business analyst teams pulling a metric, for example, like revenue, and all of those teams are all producing slightly different definitions. And not only that, because all of these revenue definitions are being put together by business analysts, they're pretty much all undocumented. So you have multiple business analyst teams all producing a metric slightly differently, almost all not documenting their work. Now, if you're in the BI or data engineering space, you might be like, well, there already is a solution for this. It's called a data catalog. So let's take a look at some of the top data catalogs that exist in the space for an enterprise to buy right now. So since I mainly use Microsoft products and make videos about Microsoft products, let's talk about Microsoft's solution. Microsoft Purview. It's very expensive and it requires a fair amount of Azure knowledge. Then there's Calibra, and Calibra is very focused around table and data quality, right? So we can kind of start to see here. And they've also started to make this pivot into AI metadata, which, I guess is a hot topic. There's Elation, which, if you notice over here, really focuses in on documenting databases, right? So we've got schemas right here, and you can see how data is moving through those schemas. There's Apache Atlas, which is open source, and maybe is one of the more promising tools, but it's an open source tool, and frankly, it's pretty hard to popularize an open source tool in an enterprise for some reason. We then have Data Hub, right, which again starts to focus in on data lineage, right? So it's got Kafka in their promo screenshot, which is streaming. We have DBT's data catalog, which, if you don't know DBT, it's a really cool data program, but they have a data catalog functionality. And then we have Databricks' Unity catalog. Now, what is the commonality between all these tools? I'll tell you right now. They're primarily focused on data engineers, or at least the more advanced BI professional. So they're focused on documenting the database primarily, and not documenting the KPI definition or like the semantic model. So I said at the start of this video, if I was going to create a startup today, this is the area that I would do it. Let me tell you exactly the problem I would try to solve now. I would try to create what I would call a metric catalog, which would be a catalog for documenting where different metrics are in specific dashboards and linking those through and making it super business user friendly. Forget all of the techno mumbo jumbo around where data is sourcing from databases. The average business user doesn't care about that. But what they do care about is understanding the individual components, right, that make up their KPI calculation in an easy, super friendly way to read. So, like, a good example of a way to do this would be using metric trees. Now, if you want to build this idea, it's free for you to go take it. I don't have the technical expertise to go build a software program that's going to be able to do this, but this is where I would focus my efforts if I was wanting to build a startup in the data space, trying to sell to enterprise, which in my opinion, if you're going to go create a startup, it might as well be targeting enterprise because that's where all the money is. I hope you enjoyed kind of this little rant. And if you did, and you're interested in learning about Power BI or SQL, typically beginner friendly tutorials, please consider subscribing to my channel. And if you liked just kind of the format of this video, please give it a like and comment down below what data related problem would your theoretical startup try to solve. Thanks for watching.